The Jean Nicolet chapter of the Daughters of American Revolution gearing up for America's 250th birthday.
Taylor Zebel introduces us to the organization, and we learn what they will be doing to mark the milestone.
The Daughters of the American Revolution, also known as DAR, is made up of women who can trace their family line directly back to someone who served in the Revolutionary War.
The one I came into DAR under, his name is John Simon, and he's my 4 times great-grandfather, and he served in Philadelphia in the Philadelphia militia.
Last year, the Jean Nicolet chapter in Northeast Wisconsin had 104 members. Today, they have more than 130.
And I think part of that is due to the America 250 anniversary. People are fired up about celebrating 250 years and kind of thinking, well, maybe I had somebody around back then. So we're getting more members that way.
DAR will be partnering with the Neville Public Museum for an America 250 display that will run from May through July.
We're trying to help people connect Northeast Wisconsin to the Revolution. So while there were no patriots here, there were descendants of patriots who came to Northeast Wisconsin and settled. And all the things you see around you, all the amazing things about our city and our communities in Northeast Wisconsin, many of those things were due to the children and grandchildren of patriots.
The organization will also hold activities and presentations leading up to the 4th of July. Members will be dressed up in Revolutionary-era costumes at the Independence Day celebration at Light Park. I asked Plasky what message she hopes people in Northeast Wisconsin take away from the upcoming anniversary.
I think it's just important to remember that people died for the cause for us to be here today. And the reason that you can walk around or start a business or do any of the activities that you do today is because some of those people fought and died for that cause.
You can learn more about DAR at WBAY.com. Reporting in Green Bay, Taylor Zebel, Action 2 News.